There we are. It's the glorious Uruk. Um, we can maybe even zoom in a little bit more later. But is Uruk actually the first Sumerian city, Aris?
It's well, it's very hard to say which one is the first city, but definitely Uruk is within this emergence of first cities.
All right.
So, in a period between 4000 BC and 3000 BC,
Mhm.
where we have the first city-states emerging, the Uruk period starts even a little earlier. So, our early Uruk period should start roughly in 4200 or 4000 BC.
All right. Well, we are in fact, or we are starting out, which you cannot really see very easily because we've nicely placed our value logo on top of that. But turn 1 is in fact 4000 BC. You know what? Let me actually move over that value logo a little bit, because why, we don't really need it over there, do we? Let me just do that right now. All right. There we go. Now you can actually see my lovely portrait and the turn number that we're in. There we are. At least I think we can. Yes. Okay. Let's get back to it. So we are sort of historically accurate right here with our 4000 BC thing. We are. The Dutch always spawn near marshes to turn into polders. Yes, that's true. But the Dutch is the comment from the chat. But the Dutch are in fact not in this game, especially not in this game, because we are duking it out with Egypt right here. So let's continue to start taking care of the needs of our people. At the moment, Uruk is very small, with just one population. If I remember correctly, the idea is that one population is roughly confirms to 100,000 inhabitants of an actual city. That's one of the stats I've once read. It kind of pans out, I think. Maybe it's a bit much for the first cities. That although the Chatal city has been argued to have upwards of 8, which is sometimes called the first city, right? The first urban project, Chatal
Yeah.
has been argued to have about 8,000 people, I think, in it. But that's not anywhere close to 100,000. Anyway, we've got for civilization, the game standards, a small population, but we're actually already relatively large from the perspective of true world ancient civilizations.
And we would not expect by any means to have such a big population in Sumerian.
No, right. So this is one of the things where you simply have game mechanics bumping up to historical accuracy, which is fine. All right, let's go for it. I think we can relatively quickly click through these tutorial messages, right, Aris?
Yeah, unless you want to talk about mechanics or specifics. then
Maybe
go.
it's nice. So we started out talking about that the first mission is actually to claim land, or to put down roots in the land, and what's happening right away. And here we can see how civilization takes a very strong perspective on how civilization. The game takes a strong perspective on how civilizations work by claiming land, by claiming territory. So you can see that right now around my city, there's 6 other hexes, so 6 other board game spaces, if you will, that are already within the borders of my civilization, which means that people in my city are allowed to start working these plots, these spaces. You will see later on that our civilization will start to grow, and then we will occupy more territory around our cities. Alright.
Though small now, our city will continue to grow if you allow it to. Its fate and that of our people depend upon you.
Will I allow my city to do this? I kind of like my city small, Aris. I'm not a big city person. Maybe we'll just keep it nice and small at 1.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do you think there will be a nice strategy for civilization game? Just having a... No, I don't think so. I think we will be quickly wiped out if we do that. Still, if it was truly up to me, I would be living in a city of about 100,000 inhabitants. That's about up to my taste. So a city like Leiden or something like that.
That's what I would.
Yeah. All right. we have to choose how our city is going to be growing and expanding over time. Well, there's not much choosing going on in this game tutorial just yet, but how I'm going to grow in
We
terms
are
of population.
fortunate that the land surrounding our city is rich in resources. Developing it will be key to our survival.
So the choice that we can do in terms of growing the population and also growing the territory, that's going to be mostly done through building buildings within my city. There's some other things that you can use to start growing your cities or your territory, but it's mostly done through building buildings in Civ 6. So, all right, it is indeed quite rich in resources. What I don't like about the tutorial is that you can't really explore in between, because you're always being held up by one of these little boxes. So, but over here there's some stone, and over there I think this is, if I remember correctly, it's coffee. Is it not? Or cacao? Cacao, I think.
Cacao, I think.
Yes, cacao. Yeah. So anyway, coffee, of course, would be, and even cacao is actually not very likely to pop up during this time of the dawn of civilization in this region, because cacao is
This
actually
region, not at all, of
is
course.
a new world product actually. So that this cacao would actually be found over on the the ancient Mesoamerican state part of development. But whatever, we're gonna just take all the bonuses we can get, right?
Yep.
So here you can see that the lands around my civilization are relatively rich, right? There's these little icons are food. These other icons, these gears, so they're actually, interestingly, they're taking corn as one of the very first foodstuffs to be domesticized, together with rice and things like barley and stuff like that. But of course, corn, although very recognizable as a foodstuff, is also a very much a new world product. So it's an interesting little choice that they made here. But I think everybody can understand intuitively that here we're dealing with food, and with the gears, which is of course also kind of out of time in terms of accuracy. We are dealing with production. So this tile over here, this forested tile over here, will yield, if we choose to work it with our the population of our city, it would yield 2 food and 2 production. Over here, we actually see that this particular tile also yields culture, and culture, that's actually what, aside from the buildings that will allow us to grow our civilization, working a tile with culture is also going to grow the borders of our civilization, and in the late game even allow us to impact other civilizations through cultural victory by producing tourism. And that is going to make our civilization influential, not so much as a warmongering state, but as a state that has lots of cultural influence. Alright, let's go to the next step. There we go, they just explain what I explained to you, so we're just clicking through that. Each hex will be needed to work by our civilization. So basically,
Yep.
it means that one unit here can in fact work one tile that you see on the map. So I guess that I would normally choose at this point in time. I always like to focus on production first, so I would normally choose to work this tile. But I guess they have a different.
We are blessed to have such bountiful lands within our borders. Still, a civilization is comprised of people, not just earth.
That's very true. It is. I like this statement here, that I think that civilization is showing its colors a little bit. They do understand that it's not only territory that we're talking about. It is not in that sense, a truly territorial kind of game. It is also a game where you have to manage the needs of your people.
Then again, from a very top-down approach.
Yes,
When-
it's not like that Gilgamesh is going around the streets of Uruk in first person, and we shake the hands of all the people in the town to get re-elected.
which is really sad, because it's something that he was actually doing, probably.
You think so? You think
Yes.
that Gilgamesh was a man of the people? You think?
No, at least in terms of the epic, we see him talking with not only with the priests of the city, but also with the men of the city and the population of the city.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. I guess civilization mod makers, you all better just get on it and allow us to go into first-person view to walk through Uruk and shake the hands of the population. All right, let's go.
Such lands will surely draw the attention of the barbarian raiders plaguing this area. We must prepare to fight back if we are to survive.
All right, there they are, the barbarians. If you remember from the introduction page of my leader, this is actually something I'm looking forward to. The kicking ass with kicking some barbarian raider ass, because it's gonna yield me a little bit of gold every time that I take one of their villages. I guess Ares is still teeming with frustration at the idea that we're going to be kicking some barbarian ass. But let's first continue in actually building our civilization, because before we think about defending ourselves and even taking the offense to barbarians.
Our city requires warriors.
Yes, every true city requires a warrior. I agree. Don't you think so, Aris, that every city does require its own little militia? I'm sure you're part of the Leiden militia by now, aren't you?
I was born a part of the Leiden militia.
Oh, there you go. Well, of course, in the past this was very much the case that there were probably not very many cities that did not have any form of this size anyway, any form of not standing army maybe, but some ways in which the population could take up arms and defend itself from outside attacks. So alright, we do this by choosing the production. So a city is not only just seeing to its own needs in terms of making food and things like that, or growing its borders. It also allows us to produce. Well,
if our people are to survive in these lands, we must focus their efforts. Only then can we master this world.
That's a very nice, almost Marxist approach to production, I would say.
You would say so?
I would say so. Yeah, maybe. I think yeah. It's the idea of the classes banding together, and I mean, not saying that it would be something that Marx would be in favor for, but it's like so the groups banding together and
yeah, fair enough.
Bending their production power together and going for it. All right. So in this particular production chooser,
our people's protection is our utmost concern. Direct your city towards the creation of a warrior.
So here I think you already have the ability to choose. So the advisor suggests that you build a warrior, but
we'll see. We'll see. I don't think we can actually choose here.
No.
No. So it won't allow me to choose. It's all right. I think my strategy normally would be to build a scout, and actually
for sure.
the actual in-game advisor tells us that that's probably the smartest thing to do as well. So this little portrait over here is telling me which strategy is recommended. I would not be going for a war card at this point in the game, because I don't even have any other people that I want to be taking this war to. But normally I would go for a scout to, in fact, look around the lands a little bit more. Still, this game is telling me to produce a warrior, which is fine. Normally, this would be taking 5 turns, but now, as you will see right now, they're actually going to be speeding up the production of this warrior for the purposes of the game.
Already our people feel more secure.
That's nice. This is a very nice modern sentiment. We now have warriors to protect us. We should be safe. It's like the gun production has commenced. People have more guns. We feel more secure. All right.
This is also very interesting, because all of a sudden, from being a city which has to protect its people and whatnot, you are now about to build an empire.
Yes, of course, because that's you have to think big, Aris. You have to think big, my friend. Why would we be content to just hang around in our little city-state? We already know, Gilgamesh already knew that this thing was gonna go booming. It was not about the city; it was about the frigging Sumerian Empire, my friend. Here, of course,
there was no Sumerian Empire, of course.
Hey, hey man, you say that now, but that is Gilgamesh, aka my dream. Dr.
Certainly.
Random Gilgamesh is going to friggin' kick some ass as part of the Sumerian Empire. So yeah, that we have all accomplished all we can this day. I think that's very interesting. Um, because in fact this day she means this turn, and with this day she actually probably means this roughly, I think 250 years. I think every turn in the beginning is roughly 250 years.
Yeah.
So let's go. Building it times is take time, so it actually normally takes 5 turns, but this will go a little bit quicker. So you'll see right now that over here, 4000 BC, turn 1, turn 2 will be something like oh, there we
Our
go.
warriors continue to train.
3940 BC. This was either
We
a...
are to be more than the barbarian tribe
Ah,
we
the
defend
barbarian
against.
tribes.
We must explore other areas of development.
Alright. That is true. We have to also explore other areas of development. And especially now because building this little warrior already took us 60 years. I guess
Yep.
we don't want to be sitting around, in a city that's not really progressing, Aris. So we are going to go
There
choosing
are
some
those
research.
among us with minds
Yeah,
intent
let's do
on
some
unlocking
research.
the
And let's talk a
world's
little bit
secrets.
about the research. So
We
you
need
Yeah.
only guidance.
open the technology table.
I'm hoping that the tutorial will allow me to do this.
I think it does. I think
Well,
it does.
it's been very technological. Show me how. Sure. So it doesn't just
No,
yet. So we'll
no, but
hopefully
we have the first ones.
yes, we have the first technologies here. So as I will hopefully get a chance to do later, I can. So there's a couple of things that you have to progress in civilization. It's the size of your city, it's the size of your territory, or the size of your cities, the size of your empire, basically. It's you can have to keep up with the military arm of your civilization as well. But then, the in terms of like actual advancement of your civilization, it always used to be the case that you have to focus on research, which is what
Yeah.
we're seeing right now. And research, as my advisor, my trusty advisor said, there are minds in our civilization that can help us to unlock these particular advances, as they were in fact, I think, called in the very first civilization game. They weren't called technologies just yet, they were called advances. So here we have 5 technologies from what you could consider the dawn of civilization, right, Aris?
Yeah, so we have, besides astrology, which is slightly weird, we have animal husbandry, mining, pottery, and sailing. Now, all of them don't necessarily coincide in terms of time, especially when we're talking about the Near East. If was designing that, I think mining, in terms of large-scale mining, was not, of course, the case, even though they were using stone tools. Quite often they would either collect stones or they would do some minor mining activities for precious and rare stones. So we can go ahead and start with the mining.
I guess
But
we
also,
can.
the fact that pottery is not a given by the time we can build cities is extremely weird, because pottery was introduced much earlier, thousands, like about 3,000 years before the first cities. So I think by now we should have at least know how to make our vases.
Yes, exactly. That's one of those weird, because here I think what you'll see is that any sort of historical accuracy is thrown out of the window in favor of historical flavoring, because of
Yes.
course the idea that pottery is in a way at the start of civilization, whatever you want to define civilization as, is quite strong. So the idea is that you kind of need pottery to call yourself a civilization, is, in terms of archaeological thinking, has been quite strong. And there's a huge
Yep.
focus on the spread of pottery as a technology, or the invention of pottery as a technology in archaeology, which in my own area of research, the Caribbean, has traditionally, not anymore, been set much later than that 3,000 years before the first city. But in the Caribbean, it is officially only starting, according to the official histories, around 450 before Christ. And with that spread of pottery, there were supposedly also lots of other hallmarks of civilization, like complex leadership strategies and further focus on religion and things like that entered the region. So there is probably here in civilization as well the idea that pottery should really come as one of the starts of your civilization building, and that's why it's in there, even though it's historically inaccurate. Same would go, I think, for animal husbandry, which is also inaccurate in terms of timing, but it's also one of these things that, if you think about the spread of civilization, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how you would even conceptualize civilization from an archaeological perspective and how problematic a term this is. But if you conceptualize of civilization as like a little to-do list, then animal husbandry would most certainly be on there. Pottery would most certainly be on there. Interestingly enough, I would say that sailing, maybe not so much. Mining, as you say, large-scale mining in which you build quarries or actual mines. Not really one of those hallmarks of civilization that we would normally be looking at as an archaeologist.
But
Astrology.
I wouldn't agree.
Sorry?
I wouldn't agree with sailing, because sailing is indeed something that was happening before the emergence of cities. Because we have, of course, people going to Cyprus, for example, way before the first cities.
Yes, for sure. But is that actually in? Are they sailing or are they rowing over there?
No, they are rowing. Yeah, so maybe they could replace. I think they are using sailing because they are sailing way later. For example,
maybe
sailing,
seafaring or something.
Yeah, seafaring.
Or
actually, if I remember correctly, I think that seafaring is either a technology in here that's later than sailing, or in the previous civilizations it used to be its own technology, and it wasn't called sailing. And maybe that we can look it up later, maybe. But let's try to advance the game a little bit, because we don't want to be stuck in 3940 BC for 5 hours. And let's go for mining. Mining is, interestingly, it will allow us to build a quarry as well as a mine, and that's going to be built literally on the landscape, so not in our cities but on the landscape. So mining will allow us to later start an improvement on this tile to create a quarry over there.
As our people's understanding of the earth increases, so too will our ability to harness its riches and increase our production capabilities. We must give them time to do their work.
Hey man, that's not how science works. If I put money into science, if I put attention into science, I want results right away. I'm now channeling the voice of many funding agencies. But
oh my god.
So this is kind of this advisor is very understandable of how advancements of science actually works in reality. You have to give us time to do our work, people.
Maybe the academic system worked that way back in 4000 BC. I mean, things change over time, don't it?
That is true. Maybe as soon as we reach 1990 AD, then this advisor is going to be like, "Hey, come on, listen up. We just put some funding. Give me. Where's my quantum computer? Where's my quantum computer?" That's true. So for now, she's very friendly about expecting high impact results, but not in any sort of short time frame. That's pretty good. All right. Researching new technologies is fueled by science, which is this other little icon over there. And science is generated by our cities as well as on the landscape sometimes, but not just interestingly, not naturally by the landscape. That's an interesting thing. I've never thought about this. So the landscape naturally allows us to provide us with food and production and even a bit of culture. But as far as I know, maybe there's like a one or two special natural wonders out there that yield science. But naturally speaking, science is not produced raw from the landscape. That's interesting, actually. That is another little perspective that civilization takes on how human civilization works. That for science, aka progress, to occur,
But I mean, can you harvest science from a field? I mean, you can harvest grass and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So you can harvest food from the environment, sure. You can harvest production from the environment, but you could say that if you take like a human ecological view of it, then you could say that a human ecology, particular environment, could be more conducive to uh, science or innovation than others. I think that would be a view that you could take as an archaeologist, don't you think so?
Hmm. Sure.
So, I mean, you cannot literally harvest it, but there's
No.
environments could induce progress. Anyway, let's get off this particular thought, train of thought, and continue. So there, as I said, it's generated by the cities. The more science you generate, the faster we research new technologies. So that's kind of true. I mean, if you give me more money, I'm gonna be faster at coming up with new technologies. That goes the same for you as well, Aris.
I am getting no money for my research, so I
Oh,
cannot.
that's
I
why it
cannot.
goes so slow. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
So I cannot confirm what you said.
All right. Well, having been part of a big European grant, I can tell you that just putting in money into science is not necessarily like more money is not the key to success. You also need to actually manage your research pretty carefully, which here is all nicely outsourced to those people that are thinking of mining right now. We don't have to worry about managing our research that much. All right, I think it's already we're already done. We are already going to be advancing into the next turn and probably
Already, we've been playing for an hour, man.
yeah, but yeah, man,
We've been talking for
we've
an
been
hour.
talking, and I mean, in terms of already, listen, this is going to be another 60 years that's going to be taking of my life. There we go.
Barbarian raiders approach
Fair
our
enough.
city. We are surely too prized a target
Oh,
for them
no.
to ignore.
Oh no. Oh no's indeed. All right, we are a prize target because, of course, um,
We
we.
cannot allow these savages to pillage and destroy all we have built. Our warriors have completed their training. Let us commit them to battle.
All right, dear stream, dear future people that are looking at our video, I'm now just going to push a little button. It's not a game button. It's actually called Ares his little rage button. And
Yes.
just to give you a little bit of a primer, Ares considers himself to be a barbarian, which of course, barbaros is the ancient Greek word for bearded people. And Ares himself is a bearded person, right? And that's why you identify, in fact, with these savage people that are coming to attack my little Uruk. And you think that civilization should handle barbarians very, very different to what we will be doing right now. So, take it away, sir, and let the world know. Vent about your beard-loving anger.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Amazing. So, first of all, I'm gonna make a slight correction on the term barbaros,
They need
which is
only
very
your
interesting
hand to
because
guide them.
for the Greeks, barbarians was pretty much everybody else. It was pretty much everybody who wasn't speaking Greek. So anything that didn't sound like the ancient Greek language to them was sounded like var.
Victory.
So
The
barbaros
barbarians
is
have learned we are not a
is
people
a word
to be
produced from
trifled
the
with.
sound that they think
Still,
other languages
they will
made.
return.
Aha.
Next
So
time I
people
feel
who
they will
cannot
not take
speak
us
properly,
lightly.
they are barbarians because they bar all the time.
Okay. Well, I guess you can speak properly, Ares. I will give you that.
Thank you. Now those poor barbarians in the game, I don't really know why they are savages. I don't think they are savages. They just have their own little villages and choice of lifestyle, and they don't really crave for what we have in our city. They are just there, you know.
Yes.
But the city, the game itself treats, but maybe in Civilization 6 it has indeed progressed, let's say, so barbarians can be converted to civilization, or they are treated as actual human beings, whereas in previous installments they were more or less the same as wildlife. So barbarians are this kind of funky wildlife or pesky wildlife that would annoy your villages and your villagers. So like similar to wolves, they would just attack for no particular reason, and you only had to kill them because there is no way to deal with them in language,
Mhm.
which is fits also the concept. Um, but yeah, as also an archaeologist who studies uh, minority cultures as well, we all know that this is not exactly the case, and it's very interesting also for the Sumerians, and because they also had this notion of barbarian, of uncivilized, for people living outside cities.
Well, Enkidu himself
Civili-
apparently was a very much a barbarian, right?
yeah,
Uncivilized,
exactly.
raised by animals. So
So
we have
in
just
that
been
sense,
kicking
it
Enkidu's
fits.
ass.
Yes, or otherwise we should save him and give him beer.
maybe, maybe that would be actually interesting. So you said that in Civilization 6 you can convert barbarians.
Yes, you can, well, not convert barbarians, but you find the smaller barbarian villages, which your scouts can go, and basically you get those people, and you get some resources by explaining to them the benefits of joining a higher culture. That's
No, what that's
what's
that's
achieved.
that's not a barbarian village. That is like a lost village. Maybe we'll encounter that later. That's like a little bonus discovery that you can make.
Yeah, but
Barbarian villages. So the places on the map that um, spawn barbarians, and if you take them, you're not going to get units or like more settlers. You're just going to get gold from that. And actually, that's as
yeah,
Sumerians, we're getting more gold from that. So they're actually barbarians are a threat as well as a bit of a profitable opportunity for my Gilgamesh leader.
yeah.
But no, I,
But
I
it's very
actually
interesting. Sorry to
no, no
interrupt,
worries,
but it's
no worries.
very interesting the fact that they were given this particular feature, because there is a theory introduced somewhere in the early 90s by one of the most famous Near Eastern archaeologists called Al-Ghazi, regarding the Uruk world system theory,
Mhm.
who approached the Uruk, the city of Uruk, in terms of world system theory, which means that we have a core, we have a center, and then we have a periphery which is colonized and exploited by the center. And he tried to recreate some form of colonial aspect in with Uruk. Uh, by now we know that this theory is very poorly explained, and although there are a lot of merits in using it,
Mhm.
we know that this was not the case. So the Uruk itself did not have colonial or expansive tendencies in the sense of incorporating faraway lands. So
Right.
it's very weird that you get more from invading, because it was not really the case.
Right. I mean, in general, I actually agree with you, and that somehow civilization, even while focusing on the accomplishments of very diverse peoples from not only ancient Near Eastern peoples but also African peoples, Asian civilizations, South American civilizations, things like that. Still, they managed to create the need in their gameplay to have this group of human beings that are ultimately completely other. They're completely different to the type of other humans that you will be engaging with, which are other civilizations and, in fact, city-states. And still, apparently, there's this. And I've never. I mean, from a game mechanic perspective, barbarians have been in the game since the um, very first games, ever since Civilization 1, and they've more or less functioned in the same way ever since the first game. It was true actually that in previous civilizations they could in fact take over your city. I don't think they're able to do that anymore. They just burn it to the ground. I think in Civilization 4, as Lomo Zoe in the chat also confirms. But it is interesting that you're simply not allowed to interact with these other human beings that are living out there on the fringes of civilization in any other way than destroying them. So if you take this mindset to the very few communities out there now that are not part of civilized life, whatever you want to call that are so-called uncontacted tribes. You still have a few of them, for example, in the Amazon in South America. They're not part of the normal going on of nation sovereign states. The only way to engage with them would be to attack and destroy them. That would be very, very weird. So I've always thought this part of civilization was weird, but from a game mechanic perspective, it makes sense, because if you're focusing on building your civilization in the beginning, it can get a little bit boring if there's no threat going on, and at the same time, the other civilizations, even if they're computer opponents, are also still focusing on building their civilization, so they're also not producing units to threaten you. So it does mean that there's at least this threat going on. It is unfortunate how it is put down. I mean, I think you could maybe make the case that you could go for wolves or other animals or other things like that that could threaten your civilization. But now they're other human beings. So, but from a mechanical perspective, it kind of makes sense. Interestingly enough, I think there's the lead designer of Civilization 4 left the Firaxis, the studio that created the Civilization series, after the development, and he went on to Kickstarter, and he kickstarted a game called At the Gates. At the Gate actually allows you to play the role of barbarians or tribes in the fall of the Roman Empire. The game is not out just yet, but it is looking very promising. So if you want to take up a different perspective and play from the role of the quote-unquote barbarians, then At the Gates is a game that you should check out in the near future. And I'm sure that when it gets out, we'll also be playing a little bit of that.
For sure.
For sure. All right, for now, I've kicked some barbarian butt, and my advisor has been crowing my victory for a while now. Let's continue. Next time, I fear they will not take us so lightly, for sure, because I just...
We should take advantage of this lull in hostilities. With our warriors now prepared, we may focus our production capabilities towards the city itself.